Listen, I've never had any problem expressing my opinions, but what we're doing here is bigger than that. These are conversations that need to be had in an unfiltered way. Drag racing's all I've ever done. It's all I care to do. I respect the history, I appreciate how far we've come, but I want more for this sport, and I'll fight for it. It's uncut, it's unfiltered, this is the show of shows. The biggest names in drag racing. No holds barred. This is the great American motorsport, drag racing. Prove me wrong, I'll wait. Hey gang, Wes Buck here, Drag Illustrated Magazine, checking in. It is Wednesday, April 17th, 2024. Hope you're doing well. Got the boys with me per usual. JT's internet connection is stable.
Yeah, I don't know.
Nope.
We will see.
Nope.
That old Missouri internet.
I switched glasses this week, guys, just so we can clear this up. Like, I got a lot of emails last week from people acknowledging that they too were red wine drinkers. So
well, you're a red wine drinker.
Well, I was
so
good. Yeah,
I'm
100% a red wine drinker, but I don't know that I'm a 2 o'clock in the afternoon red wine drinker. Like maybe on the weekends or something, or like
maybe like this past weekend.
Yeah, or if we went to like Sonoma, like go to we can drink wine at 2 o'clock in the afternoon if we're at the Infineon or whatever the hell it's called. But it's like
definitely not Infineon.
No, what is
Sears
it called?
Point. No,
that's what I meant. No, yeah,
not even that. No, Sonoma Raceway.
Yeah, Sonoma Raceway. Right. So, anyways, if we were there, I'm all for it. But I figure I just wanted to make sure I was gonna.
It does look like wine when you pulled that up.
Coke Zero.
Until I saw like the condensation on it, it looked like red wine.
Do you think? I saw Joe Rogan say this the other day. Somebody asked him like, do you drink or do you use artificial sweeteners? And he's like, yeah. Like if that's what takes me out, and it's like, you know what, that made me feel a little bit better. Not that I'm the guy that's taking all my medical recommendations from a podcast host. However, I was like, it made me feel a little bit better about my level of Coke.
Dude,
Coke
I
Zero.
stay away. Yeah, I stay away from that stuff, man. It's bad for you. I just pure sugar here is
pure sugar.
Yeah, in the South, that's what we go for. Like when I'm making my coffee and they have like every form of sugar. There's brown sugar, granulated. I don't know, too many different kinds, and all the other stuff. And then I'm like, give me that regular white, old school sugar pack. That's what's going in my
stuff
coffee.
That hurts your teeth, right?
Oh yeah.
Like it's I'm actually quickly becoming my dad. Because
congratulations.
Yeah,
it just happened.
He whenever we would go racing, and this would be a good question to start the show. Like whenever we would go racing back in the day, it was so funny. He would pack the cooler, and if you were thirsty, you just drank Diet Coke because that is all he brought. I mean, we wouldn't have water. We wouldn't have Gatorade, Powerade. He would just be like, Dad, what'd you throw in the cooler? Oh, I just filled it full of, ham and cheese and some mayonnaise and Diet Coke, of course. It's like, that's it. That's all we brought. And it's like, well, that's
so you got exposed at an early age. Too.
And I'm doing it to my kids. I feel bad. Like it's, I don't know, 8 o'clock in the morning. And they're like, Dad, I'm thirsty. And I'm like, grab yourself a Coke Zero. Welcome to America.
Yeah, we've been able to keep our kids on water, man. They want water more than anything.
Oh wow! I think you guys are doing it way different than me.
Yeah, I think having like the latest, like Christian had to get a Stanley, like not the girl type Stanley, but like a man. All the other kids had Stanleys, so now he's just gulping water out of that Stanley. I think that actually motivates him.
Yeah, I mean it's Sophia will drink water. Max is they're both really good about it. Like I think back to my eating habits when I was a kid. Like if I told my mom I wanted pepperoni pizza and mozzarella sticks for dinner, homegirl took care of me. She came through, and she didn't make like a serving of mozzarella sticks. It's probably why I looked like I did whenever I was younger. But it was like
you had to eat whatever was served.
She'd make the whole bag. I mean, it wasn't like you go to a restaurant, you order mozzarella sticks, and you get 4. My mom would just fry the whole bag. It'd take her an hour to deep fry 57 mozzarella sticks.
Have you seen the joke? that says like, "Hey, would you like to eat 6 string cheeses in a row?" And you're like, "No." What if I deep fry them and serve them with marinara? Yes, please
Yes,
bring
please.
those up
Bring
right now.
bring 2 orders. Please bring 2 orders.
Yes,
I love appetizers. We could talk about appetizers. We had some great appetizers this weekend in Vegas, right?
we did. Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
Had a great everything.
Yeah, we really did,
I don't even
man.
know where to start.
Well, I know that I posted up the picture with Dana and I was getting a bunch of texts about going to Power Slap and what that was like. And it's what a deal, dude. I'm a lover, not a fighter. Like to begin this. Like I want to hug,
Okay,
high five.
the guy that is UFC to the core.
Well, I enjoy the business of it and the promotional aspect more than any other part of it. Like I enjoy the fight. Like when you have a fight like we had this past weekend, UFC 300, like just the fight between Max Holloway and Justin Gaethje was like that's what you wait for. Like some crazy last 10 seconds, knock the kid out with 1 second left to go in the 5th round. I mean, it's bonkers. But I as much enjoy how they produce the events, and that was a lot of the reason I wanted to see Power Slap because
Yeah,
that
was
is
wild, man.
the fact that the thing that I always come back to, and this is no secret, but I feel there's a lot more out there for the sport of drag racing than we currently have. And a lot of times certain people take offense to that when I say it, and I mean nothing derogatory. Like it says in the intro, like I'm certainly proud of how far this sport has come in 70 years. I'm certainly thrilled with the growth we've seen and the increase in interest and all the multiple successes that we've had along the way. But that's never going to be sufficient enough for me. Like that's not, I feel there's so much more out there. I mean, we've been racing cars since they made the second one. Before we did that, we were racing horses. Like drag racing, speed contests, it is a part of our DNA, much the way fighting is. Like everybody that's ever driven a car has likely drag raced. They've pulled up to a stoplight, looked over, and been like, "Not today, mother." I mean, like, and that person probably didn't. The dude in the Buick LeSabre probably didn't even know that he was in a race, but he was
You
in
don't
one.
know until the other car takes off.
Yeah, you don't know. You're
And
wondering,
you're
like,
like,
'cause nobody's going to make
but
eye
then,
contact,
yeah, but
right?
then what's
You
your
can't make eye
instinct when you see the car beside you gunning it and they're clearly are challenging you to a race? You gun
Or
it
you
too.
see them looking at the red light
Yeah.
opposite, like trying to time it. I mean, everybody's drag raced. And I think about how far we've come. It's fantastic. 70 years in, drag racing's on television. We've got a reality show that's on television, on broad, cable television, primetime slots. We've got so many things. We got tracks all over, new ones. I mean, we got to talk about Flying H. I mean, the place looks like $1 million billion. Mark Mickey makes like the second run on the track ever and goes 358 at 300 miles an hour or whatnot. There's some really incredible things happening in our sport, no doubt about it. But bro, we've got a long way to go. This is fertile soil we're on. I mean, this sport, I will not rest until the Stevie Jacksons, the Lyle Barnetts, the Jay Coxes, the Jim Halseys, the Tommy Franklins, the Erica Enders, the Bob Taskas. Even I want these people to be celebrities. I want them to be household names. I want the sport of drag racing to provide them an opportunity not just to spend all the money they have, but make some too. And like that's what gets me out of bed in the morning is going, there's an opportunity to at some point in the future, I want to change the dynamic here. Like the economy of drag racing has to change. And there's a lot of different ways to tackle this problem. We don't got to dive into those now, but we've got to find a way to flip the script. I mean, people come into this sport and they basically go broke chasing the dream. We have to make that dream more attainable, and we have to make that dream like way more meaningful, because I think a lot of guys, they come into this sport and it's amazing, right? And the thrill and the competition, like all that stuff is awesome. But at the best case scenario, they're getting by or making a little money. Like these people aren't. I want young drag racers especially to go Victoria Beener and the Preston Tanners and these young guns, right? Jarrell Aplo, these guys that are chasing the dream. I want them to be going somewhere where they can actually go, you know what? If I make it as a professional drag racer, I can put my kids through college. I can maybe retire someday. I can maybe have the motorhome I wish I had. Maybe I can have a Harley. And we've got to get our sport there. And if we just keep doing the same shit over and over and over and expecting different results, I mean, we are as insane as it is the definition.
Yeah.
I mean,
So you
We have,
have to look outside. I mean, that's what we've
that's what
we've
we're
really all of Drag Illustrated has been based on outside perspective or looking at things that are doing it right or things that we want to emulate. Even back to, we were talking about this earlier, back to 2008. We had just met a year or so prior. The magazine was
yeah.
just getting off the ground, and you said, "Hey, man, I got this wild idea. Have you seen this Red Bull Air Race stuff?" And I think Jason Sharp was involved in this also
Yeah.
at the time. He was shooting a ton of the covers for us. And I'm like, not really, but I started looking it up really quick. And then next thing I know, we're on a trip to San Diego, California for a few days to go to a Red Bull Air Race where they roll out the red carpet for the media, roll out the red carpet for everyone, and just do it right.
Participants, fans, and it's
Yeah,
like
and are basically
that's what
putting
is
on
exciting.
it's like and like we said then, it's like an exhibition and a drag race almost in the air and what they're doing. And so much of that, really, it's wild that we harken back to that, because that event, while it was a lot of fun, it seemed like it wouldn't have a lot of correlation at the time. We've applied a lot of stuff from that, and so this is really this past weekend was kind of a continuation of that, I feel.
I talked about that on the show a lot because probably my favorite thing, and like so people understand, like I've always been passionate about storytelling. I don't think that's any secret at this point, and I love sharing the stories and building characters and building heroes and building superstars and the service that we provide the media, like, or provide the sport of drag racing. Like a big part of what we do is service oriented. I make references to the church all the time because I feel sometimes like that's what we are in many ways. We've got to spread the gospel, share the gospel, nurture our congregation, and so what we do at Drag Illustrated is really important. But my goal since day one, like when we kicked the doors open in October of 2005, it was always to build a platform that would allow us to put on significant events in the sport of drag racing. And so all along the way, even back in 2008, when I'd put on some little, small events prior to that. But the reason I want to go to Red Bull Air Race is like these guys are clearly really good at events. They like they sell out tickets to watch people ride soapbox derby cars with wings into a river or something, right? I mean, they do everything so
Because it's
well.
about everything else around it. It's in F1 does that. We've talked about that a lot. It's really not even about the action itself. It's the lead up. It's how it makes you feel. You say that a lot. It's how it makes you feel while you're there, while you're participating and being a part of the event. It's so much more important than who won, who did this, who set the record. When you're trying to appeal to the masses.
We have to improve. Really, what I think it boils down to at this point in time is that we have to find ways to improve the fan experience. I mean, the experience for fans has evolved almost everywhere but in drag racing. I mean, everything is better. Baseball fields are no longer, a bunch of 2x4s slapped together around some grass. I mean, they are luxurious stadiums. I mean, the Texas Rangers here at Globe Life Stadium, that place is air conditioned. I mean, it's a dome. I mean, it's beautiful. And I'm not saying we need to go to that length. And I'm the same guy that talks about honky tonks, right? But it's the fan experience. Like that's how they provide an incredible fan experience in those arenas. But we have to find ways to improve it within drag racing. I think that what we did at the Pro Superstar Shootout in the World Series of Pro Mod was a big step in that direction, and providing real deal VIP hospitality and providing a high-end experience for people, because most of these sports are building right now on the back of these higher end experiences. Like, and those are what we've got to find ways to do. And how can you add more sizzle to what you're doing? Track walks and meet and greets and Q&As. And I mean, all these things that people have come to expect at this point in time. And I think, I remember one of my favorite things that Donald Long ever did, and it was a big deal and people were freaking out, specifically people with sanctioning bodies, when he built that stage in between the lanes at South Georgia Motorsports Park. Like
I
that to me, I mean, and that thing they built it there like that weekend out of like boards. I mean, it wasn't like some steel beam construction, but that was Donald recognizing that the fan experience had to evolve. Like, and I mean, I really think he's one of the guys that introduced it to like grassroots racing. Is that, I mean, he's got the food tent with his mom and dad and they're cooking food all day long and it's free. It's all free. Yeah, I mean, he knew early on that he had to improve the fan experience. And I think most, if not all of his success, everybody wants to point to cars flying through the air, um, big wheelies, record setting runs, Stevie Jackson running, Daniel Ferris going 348 or whatever. Like those are that stuff's like the icing on the cake. But the bedrock that he has there is that people know they're going to go down there and have the time of their lives. Like if they don't get into a foot race, or a motorhome drag race, or I mean, they're going to go have a ball everywhere they go down there. They're treated like royalty. They get to eat and drink and be merry. What do I say all the time? People don't remember what happened. They remember how they felt. And
Yeah.
he has done a great job over the years of making sure his fans like have fun and enjoy that experience and circle it on their calendar. And I think we have to create more events like that in drag racing. We can't
And that's what we saw this past weekend.
That's
too.
100% what we saw this past
weekend. What's your takeaway from what we saw at that event? And you got to meet Dana White and just kind of take in that whole deal. That was really an event. It was almost the opposite of what UFC was the following night. A huge arena, huge exposure and everything. People. This was a very small, intimate. Everyone there was invited. Just a lot of unique stuff. So, what was your takeaway from that? Like your
the power slap
your
deal,
top 3 takeaways.
For me, the power slap deal was interesting because it was different than like the Red Bull Air Race as an example, because and tell Jimmy Dale, JT, why don't you send Jimmy Dale the link for the 3:30 or the 3 o'clock slot when we have Michael Hollis on here. We'll pull him in about 3 o'clock, guys. We'll have Michael Hollis, I believe, winner of Junior Gangsters class this past weekend at the Gut. I was about to say Yellow Belly, Mike, and you would have had to reach through here and slap me.
We said the Gut all weekend, Jimmy Dale. You'd be happy.
We did. We talked about the Gut as much as we talked about anything. But the difference between, like, at least with the Red Bull Air Race thing, I felt like there was going to be some direct correlations that we could pull from the competition and how they run that part of it and how they treat media and whatnot. So that was like, I kind of went in there with thinking that there would be more opportunity, but upon further reflection over the course of the last almost 20 years or whatever, I'm going, sorry, Jimmy Dale, Little Gangsters, but over the last almost 20 years, I've come more and more and more to realize that I got to quit. I don't need to be looking at motorsports. Like, motorsports are great, but I would argue with anyone that drag racing already has the best on-track product out of all motorsports. I mean, in NASCAR, you've got all the boredom that comes from all the cars looking the same, and it's very watered down. I think IndyCar, I don't mean anything disparaging, but that shit is boring. Formula One, if it wasn't for the star power that they have, it would already be, it would be nowhere near where it is now. They're leaning on stardom and celebrity and pop culture. And it's kind of, to me, part of the reason, one of the things that we need to recognize
like
with drag
luxury.
racing, but
luxury, I would say, is what F1 leans on, that this luxury lifestyle that they're selling, that 100%. They're a part of that luxury culture. But I agree with you, though, that IndyCar, we saw that. I mean, I love sitting at home on Memorial Day and watching
racing all day.
Watching the Indy 500 and all the lead up to that. I think it's fantastic. But we were there last year. I think it was 2 years ago now, actually. Time goes too fast. And it's like, what to expect once the cars are on the track. But how about just the way all of Indianapolis is, embraces that deal in the lead up. So it's not even just what you see on TV. It's the whole city is like shut down for that. And then it's kind of like, once the green flag hits, okay, everybody start going home. You got the snake pit or whatever, the big party, all this stuff in the lead up. And then once the green flag drops, it's like, okay, well, I mean, let's get this over with and on.
That was my takeaway at the IndyCar, the Music City Grand Prix that I went to. The production was incredible. Everything around the race was absolutely incredible. But the hospitality, fan experience, all these things, except for those places, are enormous. So that's one of the battles they fight that's much similar to those that we fight in drag racing. But the racing was such a small part of it. And part of the reason I wanted to go to Power Slap was because this was like an emerging sport that was very much not part of mainstream, has no history or tradition behind it. Like, they've been racing planes for a long time. They've been racing Indy cars for a long time. I wanted to see what a sport looked like legitimately in its infancy. And that was probably the coolest part of all this, because I don't know where that deal heads. Dano told me, he says it's as successful as any business he's ever seen in the first 13 months. It generates tremendous social media
It
action.
does, man. It really does on social.
It kills on social.
I think it's because you're scrolling through and you just see somebody slap the shit out of somebody else, and then they're falling over the table and they're like trying to stand back up. They're on skates. And it's something that you can sit there and watch in that 3 seconds before we're going to scroll away from something else.
Yeah, your thumb's already moving,
Yeah.
It's in drag racing for me. That was, I'm going, okay, there's some correlations to this. There's 3 to 5 rounds of one of these slap competitions. It's like a one-shot thing. It's like the ultimate sudden death type of deal. Like you get one shot to knock this guy out, or he gets a shot to knock you out. So there were some things that I wanted to see. And the other part was the scale of it, because I had been told like, hey, this is an invited guest only thing. We're only putting like 100 tickets into circulation. We've got a bunch of influencers coming out, and a bunch of Vivek Ramaswamy was there. Like, it was crazy how many people were there that were like, everybody in the building seemed to have a camera crew following them around. But I wanted to see what they were doing, what things they were putting in place.
What's the dude? What's the
Stitcher or something? The Max, my little boy, said he's not little, he just turned 16, but yeah, he told me that he's like,
we weren't aware of that deal, but he's like insanely popular now. They were doing that on the NBA games last night
or something. So but my point is that it was cool to see a sport truly in its infancy and how they were handling that. Like, I thought it was really interesting the way the events were paired. You have Power Slap on Friday night, then Saturday night you've got one of the, perhaps the biggest UFC event in the history of the world. And it's like the way that they married those two up, like you check into your hotel event, or you check into your hotel and they don't just have UFC stuff in there. They've got Power Slap stuff in there as well. They're trying to make Power Slap guilty by association in a good way. They're trying to transfer some of that audience and bridge some of those gaps. And I just think that's brilliant. We don't see near enough, but again, it speaks to what we talk about here all the time. Competition happens at the bottom, collaboration happens at the top. And I think that is just a perfect example of them going, hey, we can't have these brands competing. They need to be collaborative brands. There needs to be some sort of understood alliance. And how much easier is it to attract a competitor, one of these guys that's going to haul off and slap some dude, when they know that they're going to be kind of in the club with all these UFC fighters that they've looked up to their entire lives? Like, that is a big difference maker. I guarantee you that's the driving force, because I did some inquiring around what these guys are getting paid to slap each other in the face, and it ain't much. I mean, I tell you what, drag racers have a rough deal ahead of them, but at least you don't have to know you're going to get hit in the face tonight and potentially knocked out, and they're not paying near what most drag races pay this day and age. So it's also
getting in on the ground floor too. It's like these guys are able to get in and be one of the originals. I mean, we see how like revered and well taken care of the originals are in UFC, and Dana talks about like the Ultimate Fighter and those guys that launched that deal. It's a chance to get in on something that appears to have headed to the stratosphere, which is everything that these guys are involved in. And it's almost like, I think the analogy that I would say is that and I know not every Power Slap is paired up with a UFC event the following night like this, but it was almost like the rehearsal dinner for the wedding. It's like the night before, small, intimate, VIP only, and then getting everybody together before you have the big event that's more of the public spectacle the next day. That's kind of the way I would put it, because it's a lot of the same people were involved, but it was just a much smaller, intimate primer for the following night's event.
And to me, my like big take, when I was leaving, I'm going, I can't tell you how badly I want to put on a small, big money shootout at some track that's in the middle of the night or at 9 or 10 o'clock. Maybe don't even do qualifying. We're going to draw names out of a hat. We're going to have 8 cars here. We're going to run for big money and create that small, intimate scene, pit them all in the staging lanes, put them all right there for the fans. Don't have anybody in the grandstands, only have seating down around the starting line, only have fans down around the action. There's an opportunity there for a real, because the thing that I felt,
it was so
like,
fun,
it felt
dude.
underground.
It was right? The most fun deal. Like, it was small. We keep talking about it like it was small and intimate, but it was rowdy and it was fun.
Have you seen The Gentleman not the movie, but the new series on Netflix?
I think I've seen previews for it. I have not watched it.
Okay, let's go back to any action movie. Like if you've seen any action movie that has like some murder, mystery, intrigue kind of part of it, at some point they end up at some underground fight club where everybody's rich and betting money on the fights. And the guys are fighting to the death. I felt like we were in one of those deals. Like I felt like we had gotten into the back door in the basement of something.
JT was trying to sell me on the fact like that when he had gone to get a drink or they go into the bathroom, came back, man, I just signed me and you up. They're doing an amateur deal and I put me and your name in the hat. So we might be slapping each other.
You believed it for like an hour.
I did not believe it. I played along with him.
It was hilarious. JT walks up to me. He goes, Wes, go along with this. I've got everybody else on board. He goes, I told Mike that they had an amateur sign up and I signed us both up. And we're going to be, after this is over, we're going to get to go up there and there's going to be other people and we're going to do one of these matches. And I thought, oh my God. And
what were we doing after that? We were measuring wingspan out in the parking lot.
Yeah.
We were sizing each other up. Like, you know, who actually would be good at this, or what does it take to be a world champion?
It looks to me like you have to tuck your sweatpants into your cowboy boots.
You do.
Like
Skechers.
If there's Skechers are a big part of it. I saw a lot of guys in Skechers. Sweatpants is basically what you have to wear. Like I thought we would see dudes in like board shorts. Not the case. It is baggy t-shirts and sweatpants only, and tucked into cowboy
You got to have a
boots
giant beard. That seems to be a big help.
That helped me a lot when I was a kid.
When
I knew that I was about to get, spanked with a belt, my brother and I would always beeline it to the downstairs bathroom and put washcloths in our pants because we were about to get beat with my dad's belt, and it really helped. So I can't imagine having one of those, like the one guy that's like Wolverine, one of the main stars. He's got this huge red beard that looks like
they all do. A lot of them do.
Yeah.
That makes it. That's definitely some cushioning, man. One way you were talking about preparing for your dad's whooping. One time, I knew it was coming, and I had like a football uniform with pads and padded pants and a football helmet, and I'm like, I don't know, 6 years old or something. So here comes Dad home from work, and I know this whooping's coming probably with the belt. I think I'd done something really bad, and I'm sitting on the bed in full football gear. I'm like, I'm ready. And my dad said he just couldn't even do it at that point. He just turned around and said, I think that we've accomplished what we wanted to here.
If you were expecting a spanking, you put on some football pants and your parents will just feel so sorry for you that they'll back out. But closing up it was a great weekend in Vegas. It was weird to be out there and not be at the racetrack. Like that was like a real weird thing because that's never happened to me. Like I've never like been in the city where a drag race is going on and not like, but we just didn't have time. And it was an interesting thing, but
I think it's time well spent, man. We go to tons of drag races. We're going to
production value is fantastic.
Drag race this weekend, next weekend. We got a lot of races coming up.
But no, it was a fantastic weekend, and the drag racing in Vegas didn't disappoint either. It was great to see Jeg Coughlin Jr. back in the winner's circle. I shot him a text on Sunday night and I said, man, it just feels right seeing your name. It just does. Like I think our sport's better.
This is 2 races in a row that he's been running really well.
I really think I feel like we have kind of collectively been waiting to see someone else emerge from that elite camp, right? Like one of the things that I know KB Racing, KB Titan at this point in time have really hung their hat on over the years is the fact that, they had a rental car Bo Butner win a world championship. And I think that that's something that I would, as much as Erica Enders and Richard Freeman want to see that red car in the winner's circle, I do think that it means a lot to them to ensure to the masses that like, hey, you can come be a part of our team. And they've already demonstrated for ages now that you're going to be in contention, but Barrett I know that they would love to get that kind of done.
Mentioned Jerry Don Tucker is number 1. And we've seen, the Quadras run really well. It's definitely have that mentality over there that, that red car is tough to beat. But if you jump at any one of those cars in that camp and any car over in the KB camp, then you're going to be a competitor, which we said has driven Pro Stock's resurgence over the last few years. I mean, it really 100%. It really has.
It's like right now, as far as a class, that there is a clear path to go rent a car and be I mean, we'll look at what Brandon Foster has done in the last
Yeah.
couple of months. I mean, this guy came out of absolute left field, and now he's going to finals, and it was a really it's cool to see what's happening in pro stock. I think all of us have been kind of waiting to see if that momentum would fade, but it hasn't. And seeing Jeg back, seeing some of our icons standing strong, Erica Enders, 6-time champion. You got Greg Anderson out here killing the game. I mean, it's a really cool thing to see. And how about that funny car final? Like, that seemed like that final round, Bob Tasca takes the win on a triple hole shot. Those reaction times, like Bob going 0:34, but I think the worst reaction time of the round was Hagen 0:66. I mean, you don't see that out of funny cars often. I mean, I'm sure they're essentially all leaving off of Bob, but it was still, that was a cool moment, man.
Yeah.
See somebody,
do you think that they're getting better at 4-wide racing the more we do it? I mean, we're pretty deep into this point, and we're talking about reaction times, which usually was just like man, I just hope I can do my procedure and stage and leave on green. Like, that was that used to be the mentality when these guys were racing 4-wide, especially in the nitro cars. So I feel like they're getting better at it. I mean, it's as time goes on.
It doesn't seem like it's near.
I don't know if they love it anymore, but they're getting better at doing it.
I don't feel like I hear all the fuss about, like, Alan Reinhart, like, we had everybody up here doing the 4-wide school today. And it's like, which is something that I never would have done. I can't believe they ever like allowed that to be public knowledge, because it's like, you've got to make sure the fans think that your racers are smart enough to run the race, right? Like, this shouldn't, you know what I mean? Like, that'd be like having the UFC have a fight and bring everybody out to the octagon. Okay, here's how we punch and kick, guys. And this guy is the ref. It's like, we can't do that. You can't. I mean, what are you telling your fans? You're telling your fans these guys are a bunch of bozos. Like, you can't do that. But anyways, I digress. But I do feel like I'm hearing less of that stuff. You don't hear all the hubbub. You don't see guys leaving before the tree's activated. And you're right. I got to tell you, though, I know people, I'm Mr. Optimistic, Mr. Positive, rose-colored glasses, say what you want, but 4-wide sucks, man. I mean, it's like, I saw some commentary online that was like, oh, at least they're trying something different. Not really. They were doing this shit 100 years ago. Like, so it's not that different. Like, I get it. And I think the sensory overload and all of that, like, if you're there in person, it is badass to hear 4 nitro cars take off at once. But pretty much across the board, I feel like our sport loses everything that makes it cool. Like, I want to see a gunfight. I want to see mano-y-mano. It's a weird word to use. I've done this before. People freak out, but drag racing's intimate. I mean, it is me versus
We've set a new record for the word intimate on this show.
We probably have. Nobody else in drag racing is using the word intimate on their podcast, but it is. There's a romance to what we do that we don't lean into. I mean, it's like fighting. I mean, this is the ultimate one-on-one competition.
Yeah.
And that, to me, is lost. And even the way it translates on television.
Television, it's bad. And you know what's interesting? I was actually looking for photos last week for something we were doing, and I pulled up. I wanted the photo to be of Las Vegas, of the race last year in Las Vegas, and I pull up last year's 4-wide on the NHRA media gallery, and there's not a single photo of all 4 cars together. Like, when Rick Belden goes and shoots for us in Charlotte, or you see a lot, like, it's hard to shoot that, because it's just like, how can you really capture any art in this? You're almost just trying to capture the fact that there are 4 cars together. There was not a single photo of 4 cars together on NHRA's media site for last year's 4-wide, which I thought was kind of telling. And I'll say that I've always said here in Charlotte, because we have 2 races here as well, just like Las Vegas. The first one's a 4-wide, the second one is a 2-wide, that the attendance and just like the hype that the fans have on the grounds and leading up to the event, to me, sort of justifies 4-wide. But then when you look at the attendance this past weekend, which we don't have attendance figures, and Vegas holds a ton of people, so does Charlotte. We'll see if that still holds true. I don't know. We'll see what the attendance looks like in Charlotte here, not this weekend, but the following, and how that compares to the fall races at both of these. But if it's not driving mainstream fan interaction and attendance and hooking new people on the insanity of this sport or whatever, I think it loses a lot of its value as well. That's always been the thing that I kind of, the saving grace that I would give it. And if it loses that, then yeah, you're going to have a hard time convincing me as well.
It's like I said, Kayla Zadell, our editor at large at Drag Illustrated, who is has a great opinion and great insight on this stuff. And I've challenged our writers to be more vocal with their opinions and thoughts. Like I want to see more op-ed from Nate. I want to see more op-ed from Kayla and Craig, and the list goes on, because I think that there's a whole lot of people that write the news and report the news, but I think part of our job is to react to the news, because it does seem like our space, like I saw somebody in the comments earlier say like drag racing is a secretive bunch and they're not great about leaning on their social media. And I think there's some truth to that. But I think in our sport, we have in the media specifically, there's such a scarcity mindset that everybody thinks like whatever gig they have is the last gig they're ever going to have, and they're never going to get another job in drag racing if they say anything that's going to upset anybody. But it's like, I think part of the magic of this show and what we've tried to do is say what we think. Like, I'm not afraid to say that I think Four Wide sucks. It doesn't mean that people that like it aren't cool too. Like, I'm open to other people's opinions. I loved having interesting conversations, and I love a unique perspective. I don't like it. But Kayla told me that she thought the show was great and it fit well in Vegas. And I think that that is another part of it, that if you're going to do some clear gimmick like that, there's no better place to do it than in Las Vegas. And there's obviously no better place to do it than these super tracks like the strip at Las Vegas Motor Speedway or ZMAX Dragway in Charlotte. But I just am not completely sold on it. I think you're right. I think it kind of muddies the water for fans. Like, am I going to go to 4 wide? Am I going to go to 2 wide? Especially those that are like the casual fan that perhaps only go to one event a year. It is forcing them to make that decision. And, however, like I said, I mean, I do feel there's enough to go around, but it's just, it doesn't translate, I think, as well. I just don't think it translates as well as maybe they think it does. I mean, a lot of these Power Slap, let's go back to that. They've built that deal specifically on the video content, right?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know that they cared at all, like how
and it's on the, with like, we were there and we were told there were a lot of influencers there, and guys beside us had a full camera crew on them shooting like a podcast or something. So the whole idea is to invite people that you may not recognize them right off the bat or know who they are, but they have a big following in their niche of the world or their sport or their media, their little, small pie of the media or whatever. And they're leaning on you to produce that content. They're producing a ton of high quality content there, but Sketch is the guy's name.
Yeah, that's it.
Somebody just said it. What'd you say, Stitch?
That was close.
That was close.
Yeah, he's a cut man for the UFC.
Again, they had him, had the guys that were sitting beside us. I guess maybe we even fall into that category a little bit. But it's if I could say one thing, like going forward for our events, that's something to learn or lean off of. NHRA as well, which NHRA actually did that. Did you see Justin Nunley? Do you follow this guy?
Yeah,
on Instagram.
Yeah.
He's
been to a couple races recently.
Yeah, he's kind of a Southern, I guess, I don't know what his shtick is, country boy, hillbilly, comedian type guy. And he's been to a bunch of NASCAR races, and he kind of appeals to that demographic. Well, they had him out in Vegas, and he did a ton of stuff. I mean, he's probably posted 8 or 10 reels dedicated to his weekend at NHRA Las Vegas. And I think that's a fantastic idea. And I think they're going to get more ROI, bang for the buck on whatever deal they did to get him out there than getting, I don't know, an NFL player or something, which, we see a lot of that. Here, we're in Houston, the local Houston Texans, linebacker is here or whatever. I just don't think you're getting a ton out of that. But this guy, because I follow him and get served his content, I've been getting served drag racing specific content from this guy's page. And I was like, that's a really smart move. And I think that's exactly what Power Slap has done as well.
And I think you're 100% right. And that was one thing that Dana said to me. He goes, look around here. He goes, look around here, who we've got here. It's not mainstream media outlets. It is niche things. It is people that have hardcore dedicated followings ranging from a few thousand to several million. And they're doing that strategically. And I think it's just super smart. I mean, you're literally building on the shoulders of those people and using them to connect you and your brand to their audience. And I do think that the NHRA will probably see more sizzle or more immediate response from that cat being there, the YouTube dude, versus probably their NHRA broadcast on Fox.
I think so. I really do think so. I mean, which is, you kind of don't want to say that, but that's really the truth, and where we are with some of this stuff. And kudos to them for doing it. And I think that when you're trying to grow something, which as big as UFC and Dana White and everything that they do over there is, they are trying to grow it, and they've got to start somewhere. So I think that is a smart way to do it when you're first getting started. But you kind of have to treat drag racing like that. We're 60 years in, but we're still just getting started on this kind of stuff.
And that's the thing that I want to say, is that I truly feel like there's so much more out there for all of us. And it's,
I don't know why I say 60 years. We're over 60 years.
70,
I just go to that
70,
number.
right? 70 plus. But it's, I do think that one of the coolest things that we do here, and what I'm especially proud of on this particular episode, is just, I love the fact that nowhere else on the internet, when it comes to drag racing, are events like the NHRA 4-Wide Nationals being talked about in the same breath as Small Tire Gangsters, this outlaw no prep race. Like, I love the opportunity to do that. I love the opportunity to connect people and introduce folks. So without any further ado, I want to introduce our first guest of the day. We're gonna have him on here for a little bit. I believe he's driving home, so I don't know. And we're supposed to be joined by Michael Hollis momentarily, but the boss himself, the boss of the Big Hat Mafia, Barrett Green, promoter, co-promoter, alongside Michael Hollis of the recently rescheduled Radial Tire Roundup down here in my neck of the woods in the greater DFW area at the legendary Texas Motorplex. Barrett, what's going on, buddy? You doing well?
And that was a big lead up.
Yeah,
you like that?
Good at those, man.
And then
hyping you up.
No
I
preparation
appreciate
there.
it.
Do you called me out last night? You and Michael were live in the cab
I
of your
did.
truck,
I did.
and I was laying next to my dog. This is my normal thing. It's we get to, I have to go through this whole rigmarole with my daughter every night to get her to go to sleep. And anyways, my routine is to, like, I got to be quiet. So I lay down there and I'm scrolling through, and I got my AirPods in, and boom, I get a couple inches down the Facebook feed, and I see you and Michael in the cab of your truck, and you said, "Hey, where's our invite to the show tomorrow?" And I said, "Lock it in." And I think you thought I was joking, but I wasn't. And it's, I mean, do you see any value in that, Barrett? Like, what's that mean to you? Because I know I can talk to Jimmy Dale about it and he'll gush, but it's important to get different voices on here. Like, do you recognize, like, the significance or what we're trying to do when it's like, I don't want that pro level drag racing world to have no connection to the places that those potential pro drag racers come from, right? Like, and we're all better. A high tide lifts all boats. I think it's important for you guys to get to walk around with your chest puffed out, you know, that you're being mentioned in the same breath and talked about during these shows that talk about professional drag racing.
Oh yeah, I mean, for sure. Like, it's for the Radio Roundup, this would be our would have been our 4th year. You know, we're talking being in the same avenue as some of, like, World Street Nationals, all the duck stuff. Like, we really try. Me, Michael, my wife. Like, you were talking about food and all that stuff. I got about $10,000 worth of food. I got nothing to do with it. It's not going to last till our rescheduled date. So, she's been making pasta salad, all kinds of stuff. I gotta, y'all want to eat some pasta salad? To come on over. I know what's for dinner for the next couple of weeks. It's just one of those deals where, you have no choice but to move forward. And, when your back's against the wall, it's like, look, I don't mind losing money for the name of the game, but that's not going to work out.
It's brutal, man. That's the thing, that it's so heavy on you every time you do one of these events, that you can do everything you want. You can prep the track perfectly, have all the right equipment. You can have all the food bought, and then Mother Nature nukes it. And I hate it for you guys, but I do like the date though. Like, I know that you guys had kind of the same thought process that we do, is get into these guys, provide them an opportunity early in the season before it's 200 degrees in Texas, when everybody's still full of piss and vinegar and can't wait to go to the next race. Get those guys on the property for Radial Roundup. But I do love,
you guys got a lot of good racing
November
going
date
down there. I mean, in the DFW, until Wes moved down there, I didn't realize all this was going on down there. And I know it's grown over recent years, but man, it's like every weekend you guys have got events.
Yeah, we hit it hard and heavy in the spring.
Yep.
Yeah, definitely hard and heavy in the spring, and then the fall. You kind of got to wait for it to cool down, and we got a rescheduled date in November. It's not the greatest, because it is the same weekend as World Street Nationals here in Orlando, so we do have some kind of overlaying classes as far as some of our pro stuff, but we got plenty of time to figure out how to work around that. But you only got so many months, and dealing with a track like the Texas Motorplex, they're doing something every weekend. So it's like, hey, what are we gonna do for a reschedule?
Yeah,
it's
if
like,
they're not having
well, we're gonna see,
if they're not having a drag race, they're having like a solar eclipse
concert
party
or
or a concert. They do a great job. I mean, I think that's what it
Yeah.
takes in this day and age. But enough with this. And I do hate that you guys had to reschedule. And I hope that date, I'll be there, a conflict. You guys have you guys have made a mark amongst this community of people. You've supported them wherever they go. Like Barrett, you especially. I think that means a lot to these guys. It's something I pride myself in. Like, they shouldn't only see you at your race, right? They should see you
like
at
you
a
said,
multitude of these events.
competition at the bottom, collaboration at the top. Me and Mikey, we always joke we're just amateurs, right? But I'm selling Small Tire Gangster t-shirt out of my trailer. Mikey's out there racing. I'm backing him up. Like, I told my wife, and I even told Jimmy Dale, like, I feel like Small Tire Gangsters and Radio Roundup are forever going to kind of be intertwined. It's good for the racers. It's good for companies that want to come and sponsor Small Tire Gangsters. If they're the weekend before, hey, drive your shit 45 minutes over to the Motorplex, come do Radio Roundup next weekend, or the other way around. We got people flying in and out. And
I think it's smart, man. I really think you guys are doing a fantastic job. Tell me about the gut this weekend. Jimmy Dale was sending me pictures and videos. We can talk about the results, but I want to hear some stories. Like, what was the wildest shit you saw? Corey Stamper sent me a video of a car coming out of the water box, just about taking him out.
It's one of those deals where
from the gut.
it's how it is. It's super outlaw. Like, the promoter and me is like, man, like, you kind of got to get this under control. And Tom and Poland, they learned a lot from last year. And, they said, hey, we learned a bunch from you guys, and we can learn, Mikey and I, we can learn from them. We can learn from Big Jake. We can learn from Fletch, like a lot of these guys. But it's like controlled chaos. You know what I mean? I would say the biggest, craziest thing is, like, there's blood in the water. I always joke. People used to hit me up every time Mikey would be at a race. Hey, man, bet 20, bet whatever. Because they know I'm going to bet with my homie, right? I'm betting with my heart. Well, now all of a sudden we're riding with Mikey. The one time that I'm like, hey, I'm over here, everybody was over there. And next thing you know, I'm like, bet 20, like, bet 50. I'm like, well, mama ain't raised no bitch, bet 50. And then it's bet, next thing you know, I'm just like, shit, I might have to go back to the trailer. I don't know. I don't know if I got enough money here. And his wind light turns on, and I'm like, single file line, motherfuckers, pay up. Like, just hand it to me, baby.
Well, you guys
like,
did
he's
pretty
all hyped
well.
up, coming back. Yeah.
He's got to be, man. Him and one of the coolest, a really cool story. Like, he goes racing like almost exclusively with just his dad. I mean, obviously he's got some help from some friends, but like, that's a really cool story. They work on these things themselves. To see him, like, just the smile on his face in the winner circle photos, it's like it kind of told the story. I mean, he's got 20 grand in his hand, and weren't there like 60 plus cars in?
Yeah, there was 72, because second round was 36.
So okay, so that's bananas. Like, anybody who's won a 4-round drag race or a 3-round drag race has something to be proud of. But when you've got 5-6 rounds, holy moly.
So that's like, we have a similar deal at the Roundup called Extreme Street. Like, last year we had 70 something cars, and we're like, that's too many rounds of racing. So it's like, this year we're doing 64. Like, that's it. Buy your tech card ahead of time, 64. We up the money, all that stuff. But it's like, just one of those things where you just want to try to, focus the amount of time that you're working per class. Like, that's 7 rounds. Like, goodness gracious. We talked about it at the end of the night. Mikey, I think, made 15 or 16 passes. Like, that's a lot.
That's a ton.
Went to the finals of True Street the night before.
What was the is it a chip draw all the way to the final?
Yeah, so they do chip draw on every round. So they had Shannon Morgan, we call her track mom. She was helping out. And as it would go over, everybody, had a number on a chip. Like, I think she wrote their car number or something. So she would draw, and then next thing you know, in the WhatsApp, you would get the pairings. And it's actually funny, it came down to the semis, I think, of Saturday night. I went over there to say, hey, I knew, Michael had the potential to have a bye, and another guy had the potential. So one guy was already, he had a bye to the semis. So she said, hey, draw. And I said, I can't. And so she asked one of her other buddies to draw. I'm like, he can't either. Like, he knows Mikey. I'm like, so we got some random guy to draw, and he just draws 71. I'm like, bam, Mikey's in the finals. Like, just, we prefer for, civilization draw to a ladder, right? I understand the hype and everything else, but when you're trying to run like a ton of cars, it's just one of those deals where it just simplifies everything.
It's hard, man.
Or
It's really hard.
If you have someone continually drawing, that helps out too. So it's just kind of, it's however you do it. But for something like that, where all the classes are drawn, you got to continue to do it.
It's you basically what we have to do at World Series is like make it somebody's responsibility. Like one person, we lost Barrett there. One person is responsible for signing, like, hey, this person's going to draw a pro mod, this person's going to draw a pro stock, and just so we can keep it moving. But yeah, no, it is a big challenge, but man, it adds a lot. What was the fan turnout looked solid. I mean, all the photos that we got from Cole Reynolds, shout out to Cole Reynolds for hooking us up with some great photography, but it was like people everywhere.
Yeah, and for first timers, right? It is, there's no one there holding your hand, right? There's no one there telling you what you can and can't do. And, you got some people that are like, all right, I'm here to take pictures. And it's like, well, cool. Like, there's the racetrack. And like, well, where do I stand? I'm like, well, here's the racetrack. And then you're on the other side of the fence. Like, the fence is behind you, like that's up to you. It's kind of wild, and drivers, that never known, like they pretty much like the seas part when you come into the water box. Like, it's people, and everybody's like, what, are they going to move? Like, do a burnout. Like, they'll move. And if they don't, like, you're going to move them, right? It's how it goes. I think one of my homies from out West Texas his name's Brandy Hubbard's got a Grand Am Grand Prix something, but it's got real nice bull horns, but then got them little scallops on the end. I'm pretty sure he tore some jeans, or he got draw some blood coming through there, because that's just, you're going and you're standing still. Like, that's the risk you take. You know what you're doing.
And is it like a deal where you do your own, like bring your own water? Like if you want to do a water?
No, they at least have a water hose. They have a tree, they have a water hose, they have one light.
I knew they had a tree.
So they have a tree, and then for the wind light, there's a red light for you can't see my hand. There's a red light for the right lane, and then there's like a green light for the left lane. So you're looking, and it's hard to see during the day, and it's one of those deals where I did make a comment, trees over cameras, right? Last year, Small Tire Gangsters, finish line camera, starting line camera, tire crack, all that bullshit. That takes up so much time. And next thing you know, like, you're there, you're at a track, use the timing equipment. Just how it is.
I agree.
You cut out so much stuff. Now, if you're on the back side of the track, I understand. Use a camera, all that stuff.
I used to be a big proponent of instant green, but this was like 20 years ago when it was like still like a pretty new idea. And I thought it was the best way to like replicate illegal street racing. But it is. It just when the stakes get this high, right? And when it gets and the cars are this fast and the money's that big, you've got to be running a real drag race. Like I
always,
does he get pushback on that? Do people want
a little bit? But I mean, you have two choices. Like, there was a time at the roundup whenever there was an issue with the chip trial for people and stuff, and they were telling, my wife was the one doing it, and they were like, hey, they want to redraw, and they were like, you need to go down there. I'm like, no, she was the one that did that, and she refixed the ladder. And so if they got a problem with it, they can take it up with her. So she goes down there, and they're kind of hollering at her. She's like, look, two choices. You can run like it is, or you can take a shit and pack it up. Like, there's money on the line, whatever you want to do. But 30, out of 37 people, 36 were fine with it. You're the only one who has a problem with it, fuck off. Like, that's how it goes. And same thing with the tree. You either show up to the tree or you show up for the camera. You do what you want to do because it's your car. That's their event. That's how they're going to do it.
Well, and it's these events. I mean, you guys said you're in your almost fifth year, right? Or this will be the fifth?
They'll be the fourth.
This will be the fourth. Tommy Gunner is in his second year with his event, and it's like these things are getting traction quickly. I mean, I talk all the time how it's a process. You kind of plant your flag, you plant a seed, so to speak, and then you kind of watch it grow over time. But I mean, these two events have become like significant happenings in drag racing, which I think is just cool to see, and that adds to it as well. Where I know Jimmy Dale, one of his things is he wants these things to be legitimate happenings. He didn't want there to be a
Mm-hmm.
bunch of like shenanigans or, like you said, looking at a camera and having arguments
Yeah.
about shutter speed or whatever. It's like, no, this needs to be a real drag race. And I think that, I mean, what do you like? You would know as well as anybody. And if we get Michael on here, I'll ask him the same question. But you've been a part of this small tire scene for a long time, the no prep scene for a long time. I'm just curious, like, where do you see it going? Like, we've seen radial racing kind of do this, you know what I mean? And we've had big high moments, perhaps none higher than Lights Out 7, which a lot of people kind of see as a landmark happening in small tire racing. And I'm one of those people. Count me in. We see that continue to culminate 8, 9, 10. Here we are 5 years later or whatever, 6, well, it's even longer than that, right? 7 years later. In radial racing scene, I mean, we see RVW having almost gone all the way away. Now it's back in a big way. No prep is very similar. We saw it start out on a real small level at these kind of underground, unknown happenings. I'm thinking of Great Lakes Dragway and, you know, it's Thunder
King
Valley,
of the Streets, all
King
that
of the
stuff.
Streets, stuff like that. And then it becomes mainstream. The Cash Days thing starts to pick up on the internet. Then you have the show. You got Street Outlaws makes it fashionable to be a no prep guy. No Prep Kings pours fuel on that fire. Where do you see? Let's start with, because I think they're different, right? Radial racing and no prep racing, like they're small tire for sure, but they're different, much different communities, a little different segment.
Yeah,
maybe.
I mean, you have the same people, right? You have, you know, like you say, oh, well, they're different, right? Wade Hopkins is out there tuning some of the baddest small tire cars ever, right? They're just, you have the same cast of characters no matter what. But we put on no prep races, we put on radio races. There's kind of two different crowds, vibes, whatever it is, and both of them are strong. At the end of the day, you're still spending money. But it's one of those things where people always say, oh, radio racing's dead, whatever. Like, look, it's a circle. Just, you know, 5 years ago, pro mods were paying, you know, $5,000 to win, and you barely had 8 cars because everybody's building small tire cars. Well, the circle's coming back around. You know, the Pro Street 33, 10, 5, what the not small tire stuff. Even though some people needed, you know, I heard you say 33, 10, 5Ws was small tire, and I'm like, I don't know what kind of education they go on in Missouri, but that ain't a small tire. But it's okay. You've got the circle coming back around, right? Now I feel like it's just a faster evolution. The circle is faster now, right? So it's just everybody kind of rides the wave. And, you know, at one time it was 50,000 to win RVW. If you wanted Pro 275, whatever. Now it's Pro Mod. Everywhere you look around, Pro Mod's 50,000 to win. These guys spend all this money, you know, and you can only race like a radio car. You can only race it a couple times a year. It's kind of how the radio, you know, roundup was born. Let's give all these guys that go all the way to the East Coast that say Texas, 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 Texas. Let's give them a place to race. All these Missouris, all these guys. Eventually, the East Coast guys. I don't know what it is about driving west. If the steering wheel comes apart, I don't know what it is, but the East Coast guys don't come west. That's just how it is. But
it's true, man.
Texas and everybody else will go over there and push the shit in and then drive all the way back. It's just like people are like, oh, it's like I talked to Ron Rhodes. I said, hey, if you come to the roundup, I'll pay your fuel bill if you'll pay mine to go to drive to Yellow Bullet. And he's like, well, and I'm like, hey, it's 20 hours. When I leave my house to go to FL2K, 21 hours if I don't stop. Like, it's one of those deals where it's traveling, it's dedication. You know, people are like, oh, what do you do? I'm like, this is it. This is what I do for a living. Sell t-shirts, sell hats, announce drag races. I live and breathe this shit. You know,
I get it, man. And I think that you're right, because it does seem like I think the RVW thing, it was what people can do now in Pro Mod that I think is unique is what like Eric Gustafson and Jason Lee do. You know, they've got these cars that they can rapidly switch from big tire. And I remember when that was happening, because I had a lot of issue with RVW evolving the way that it did. Like, I really wanted to see it remain steel roof and
Pro 275. Yeah,
I wanted it to be what Pro 275 is today. And I think in pursuit of these crazy performance numbers, right? Like in pursuit of going 340s, the rules loosen, chasing these crazy records. But for me, I wanted to stay at see it stay more true to its roots. And I remember when Jamie Hancock brought out his Pro Nitrous car and it just started happening. But what it did is it opened the door to a guy having kind of a multi-purpose hot rod, something that it's evolved beyond that. Unfortunately, now where you got guys that are building purpose RVW cars, engine placement, all these things. But we have seen guys have success. I mean, Stevie Jackson is the example right now. I mean, he can put he can put Shadow 3.0 on big tires and be competitive. He can put it on radials and be competitive. So it's clearly,
well, like hell,
it's clearly possible.
Derek Menholt run Pro 275 one weekend. Next thing you know, he's running Top Sportsman, I think, at World Series.
Yeah, running top.
And then going to go all the way back to Montana and kill them, like running 8.0s.
But it's your point. It's your point, though, right? Like it's that they've got a lot more options. Like and they can do different things. I think that's exciting for racers that most of these guys grew up class racers, or at least like those Pro Nitrous, PDRA, NMCA. They grew up class racers, so they were used to only having really one place they could go. Like, I got to go run this class. I built my car to run this class at my local track. All of a sudden, there's some opportunity to bounce around a little bit. I mean, I talked to one of our World Series of Pro Mod guys, and Scott Wildgus. I was talking to him yesterday, and he ran really well at our race. Great guy. They're not really they're doing a hybrid schedule this year, and they're going to run some PDRA, run some NHRA, run some NMCA, run World Series. And I'm going, to me, I understand the desire to chase a championship. I absolutely do. But in this day and age of like all these badass independent events, I think a lot of these guys can get real excited about going from one big race to the next. Like, I'm going to run World Series. I'm going to run Lights Out. I'm going to run No Mercy. I'm going to run, like it's cool for them. Yellow Bullet. That's a cool opportunity for those guys to go be a part of different scenes, be around different people. Because again, this goes back to what I was talking about at the start of the show about ultimately wanting to change the economy here in our sport. But the fact remains, and I think sometimes promoters and sanctions and series lose sight of this, is a large majority of the people out here are doing this for fun. Like, they're not doing this. They're doing it because they love it. So you've got to be as focused on that as like the competitive aspect of it. Like, chasing points and all that stuff is great, but there's a whole world of these guys. They couldn't chase championship if they wanted to, because they can't go to that many races, because they can't miss that many days of work. So
those are the guys hollering about my combo needs weight off and stuff. Like, no, it's not.
No, I mean, and it's, I've told this story before and it gets tired, but it's, I'll give you the abbreviated version of it, but I was talking to two different pro modified racers from back in the day, kind of some of the early days of pro modified, or as it was really becoming competitive and there was more money coming into the class. And you have Scotty Cannon on one side of the table saying, none of these weekend warrior guys that race a handful of times a year, no matter what the rules are, no matter what they have, they're never going to outrun me. Because and when they're working on Tuesday, I'm testing. And when they're golfing or on vacation, I'm running a match race. And so you're never going to be it's very hard to negate the advantage that comes with making a lot of runs, right? And this actually brings me, go ahead, because I have something I want to ask you.
Yeah, I was at my ADHD, I'm going to lose my point too, but the biggest thing this day and age is there's no originality. Kind of like you guys were talking a little bit about, media outlets and stuff following, right? We invite a shit ton of media to the roundup because everybody has their own style. They have their own audience and everything else. But there's a lot of people out there who just want to copy and paste. Everybody says, the roundup could be the next, No Mercy or whatever. I'm like, that sounds cool, but we want to be an independent event. We want to do our thing. Yes, we do have pro level classes, but we have a bunch of other, cars. We had almost 300 cars on the property last year, and a lot of it is just regular, I know we have blue collar guys in pro classes, but it's just a lot of regular blue collar people. And then on top of that, we give thousands of dollars in cash to kids racing Power Wheels. And like the thing that really absolutely kills me the most about postponing the roundup is we were so hyped up. Mikey and I bought this junior dragster. I don't know if you've seen us talk about it or whatever, but we bought a junior dragster. We got it wrapped. Pro One came on board to do a full suit, everything. We had guys just throwing money at it. One kid that was going to enter the Power Wheels was going to be drawn out of a bucket and was going to go home with this thing. Fuel, trailer dolly, all that stuff. Get started in drag racing. And I know it's kind of a burden for some parents and stuff like that. So we had some options, but like, Nowhere else are you going to be able to walk in, and we have Power Wheels. So if you didn't even know that, you had a Power Wheels race or whatever, hey, we've got a couple of them. You can race it. And it wasn't going to go to the winner. It's going to go to a random kid. But like trying to get people interested in drag racing other than just seeing cars go down the track, relatability. You know what I mean? Like that's what makes LDR Approach 75. You're like, man, I have a 69 Camaro, or I have, a fourth gen Camaro. Like, I really don't have a synergy body, yeah, stuff like that. But like making it original and making it relatable. Like if you had a family come out that only wants to stay for one round, they're probably going to come in the morning. They're going to run Power Wheels and they're going to watch a round of racing and go on the rest of their day. Whereas if you just had strictly just pro level classes and some stuff, they'd be like, well, what is that? I don't even know what that is. I don't even know if I want to go.
Because it's like you got to explain to these people what's going on, why it's important, why it's significant. It's very interesting. I wanted to ask you about, and kind of along the lines of regular guys and blue collar approach to drag racing. This is like events like Small Tire Gangsters. That event's like off the trailer, right? You're not making a bunch of shakedowns or a bunch of. Okay, that's
there was. I mean, you could come in Thursday and make some, test passes if you want to call it or whatever. But yeah, first round, it's. I think other than some of the index stuff, I think Cheap Street in our rules, like myself, Michael, and Tom, are sort of the committee as we call it. I think they have to have at least one shakedown because there's a random index in there. So, but for the most part, it's all off the trailer. And you have something. You have something like the roundup, like we start Thursday, but that's just testing. So it's like you really come and qualify Friday night, and Sunday morning you're waking up and driving home either with some money or you're loading up, Saturday night because it's over, right? Like it's not this, hey, you got to be there Monday type situation just to get a parking spot. And those events have grown to that. Like when I drove to the very first Lights Out, I think we showed up on Wednesday or something for Q1.
No joke.
It's just one of those deals where, now you got to manage the growth.
You do. Jimmy Dale said something that you told him last week on the show that I thought was interesting. He said that you told him you don't realize it's too big until it's too late. And I think that's an interesting perspective. If you want to what experience kind of brought you to that realization, or what put that in your head?
Well, one of those was with the Extreme Street whenever I had to call the gate and tell them not to sell more than 64 tech cards. I was like, do not sell more than 64 tech cards. And they're like, yeah, it's too late. Because it's a time situation. Like you don't know how big it is till it's too late. Saying like, you put money on top. That's how they do it. And I even kind of explained to them like, well, you got to look at it's the same, right? You're putting money on top of entries, but eventually they're running for the same amount of money. If you said, hey, we're guaranteeing, this no matter what. I was like, if you are trying to base the payout on that, you don't know that next thing you know, Little Gangsters has 95 cars. You don't know till it's too late. Now you have to race with those 95 cars. And you only have so many hours in the day, especially on Friday. He was talking about having big classes Friday. I'm like, look, when you start Friday, eventually it has to end and start Saturday's show. So if there's just a narrow margin in between, if you're finishing up at 8 o'clock in the morning, Saturday morning, and the gates open at 10, like we'll shoot both ourselves. You know what I mean? Like it's miserable.
Brutal. Hey, look who we got in the green room. The man of the hour himself here.
Did he go and buy some headphones? I think he bought some just like me.
We're about to see what's going on. Hey, Michael Hollis, welcome to the Wes Buck Show, man. This is long overdue. You guys, I was telling the crew earlier, y'all were calling me out last night. You go live in the cab of the pickup. Hey, where's our invite? And I said, lock it in. So here we are, man. Congratulations. We've been talking about.
We made it, Bubba. We made it.
Finally.
Yeah, that makes me feel hopefully as good as it does you guys too. But it's hey man, congratulations. We were just talking about the challenge that is wading through 70 plus race cars. Like you've got to be beside yourself. Like what a moment. $20,000 plus. Seeing that picture of your pops with the brick of cash up to his head, making that cash call. Like I'm going, this is what a special moment. Congratulations, Mike.
Thank you, man. Yeah, it was awesome. Like after going to Georgia and all that back in the day and running Ultra Street, and I always did really good down there. Like every time I ever went, I qualified in the top 10. I never went out first round. I always, went rounds down there and stuff. And I used to dream of winning like one of Ducks races in Georgia or something like that. I thought that'd be like the highlight of my career, you know. And we kind of talked last year. It's like, man, who would have ever thought that the biggest race I ever won would be a no prep race at Yellow Belly, right?
With
But
that car.
true, like you can't deny it. I mean, that's what Tom and Poland have created. Like, and I'm very proud to say that is like the biggest race I've ever won, you know. So yeah, it was special for sure.
Tell me about like just your personal, I mean, every racer worth their salt goes in thinking I got this bitch in the bag, right? I'm going to win this whole deal. But it has to be like a daunting realization to go, oh my God, I've got to go through, I'm going to have to make a dozen runs today. This is not going to be easy. I mean, what was your like mindset going into the deal?
Man, I've always been a pretty humble dude, you know, so I never show up thinking I'm going to win. I honestly try not to think about it. You know, I try to just put my head down, make the best pass I can every pass, and not make any mistakes, you know. In a long race like that, I mean, I went 7 rounds to win it. And in a long race like that, man, all it takes is one little mistake that can end your weekend in, you know, round 2 or 3 or 4 or whatever. And so I try not to think about it, you know, like it's just another round, you know, take it round by round and just try to make it to the end. It's more of a longevity deal than anything, to be honest, you know.
War of attrition. It reminds me of those duck races that you're talking about, because I remember going to those events and walking through the pits, and I'd have racers tell me, hey, if we can have our stuff still crank for first round, we are thrilled. Right. Like we have, and how many times at that race specifically have you seen guys have you in the pits is over putting a motor in Mark Woodruff's car to get him ready for the final? Cause he's, you know, I mean, all those moments that have happened throughout the course of small tire racing. And I just think it adds something to it. Like that many rounds of racing, man, there's not a lot of people that are ever going to win a 7-round drag race, be it a bracket race, a high school race, let alone real fast heads up cars. So what was like was there an especially tough round or a tough draw that you were concerned about, or somebody that you've had to mix it up with a lot in the past?
Man, I mean, honestly, what's kind of cool about Small Tire Gangsters is, you know, I'm not really a big no prep guy, you know, so what's kind of funny is most of the guys I raced, I didn't really know who they were, you know, I was kind of meeting them for the first time. So that part about it is honestly kind of cool. I mean, I like racing different people. Friday night when I went to the finals of the True Street Deal Friday night, and I raced one of my buddies, Jerry. He's from Nevada. That was probably the toughest round all weekend. The only round I got beat all weekend was Friday night in the finals. And that was probably the toughest round all weekend. Saturday was pretty smooth, and Saturday ran so fast. And like I said, we made so many passes, man, there wasn't really much time to think, you know, which honestly, I like that. You know, I like staying busy, because if I sit around at the trailer and think about it for a little while, it gives me more chance to screw it up. You know what I mean? So
100%. Well, hey, look at this. We got the man of the hour. Ladies and gentlemen, back for week 2, the one, the only Jimmy Dale, rocking that strange engineering hat, promoter of the hour. What's cracking, buddy, man? Congratulations. I'm glad you joined us for a minute. And like, what's it mean to you to hear Michael, or anybody for that matter, say things like, this is the biggest race I've ever won?
Let me give you some history. All right. When I'm probably 6, Michael, how old are you? You're a year or 2 older.
36.
You're 2 years older than me. So I'm about 17 years old, and we're going to the racetrack every weekend, Texas True 10-5. At the time, Mikey was already a wheelman. Mikey was driving a car. I don't remember what it was called, but it was owned by a guy named Unk. This yellow first-gen Camaro, big block. Mellow Yellow. That's what it was called. And Mellow Yellow would go 5.0 on a radial back in the day. I mean, this is 2007 something.
Yeah, that's getting it. Yeah.
Getting it. And I was just a hang around. I was a kid who loved drag racing, who would show up and watch every single weekend. But Mikey was a bad mamma jamma back then, bro. And so don't let him get it twisted. You know, he did say, I've been racing for 30-something years. It took 20 of those years to figure out how to do it. So he ain't lying about that. And just for Mikey to come to my race and say it's one of the biggest races he's ever won, and to go from an idea of like, hey, let's figure out a way to pay for our racing career throughout the year, to, damn, we have one of the premier drag races in the country. I can stand on that right now and say we have one of the premier small tire, or one of the premier no prep races in the entire country. Man, it's crazy.
I touched on this with Barrett a minute ago, but I'd like to, and we talked a little bit about just the evolution and how our sport does a lot of, going in circles, so to speak. You got, radials hot 1 minute, no preps hot 1 minute, big tires hot 1 minute. And it's like bell bottoms. They were in style, they went out of style, and now they back. Oh,
baby.
Yeah,
they are. But Modell, she knows all about it.
What do you guys, where is no prep headed right now? Because I think that there are probably those, because there's a lot of questions surrounding, the future of no prep kings, which is kind of like the major leagues, so to speak, of the no prep scene. What do you, or just maybe, yeah, I mean, it's obviously a show as much as it is a competitive drag race. So I certainly understand that. But where do you see this type of drag racing going? Because I feel like I'm almost hearing more about these events like yours, Tom, than I am those happenings at this point in time. Like, are we about to see like another run from small tire no prep?
I think that all right, so let's go back. You and me talked last year after Small Tire Gangsters, and I told you I want to do $100,000 race. And you said, you've been a great mentor. Wes, you've been a great mentor. Mikey, great mentor. Barrett, one of my closest mentors is Barrett Green. All right. So I will call Barrett Green. I don't care if it's 3 a.m. If I have a question about my race and me and Michael Poland can't really come to a conclusion or an agreement, I will have Barrett Green. And matter of fact, last night I had a team meeting with everybody involved, Small Tire Gangsters, anybody that worked the event. And I invited Barrett, right? Not because Barrett is a promoter of Small Tire Gangsters that they necessarily work the event, because he's the voice of reason. He's the guy who's done it. Him and Mikey, they've done it. They've had huge successful events. And so while we may be off on a tangent running about this rule or that rule, Barrett's always able to reel us back in, right? And I think you did that same thing last year to me when you said, hey, let's worry more about sustainable growth and not booming immediately, and then you boom up to $100,000 no prep small tire race. So where do you go after that? The only next milestone is 200,000 or 150,000 or $250,000. It's just not sustainable to run it that way.
It's not. And I think that there's two things. Like, I remember back, are you guys familiar with Jason Ruckert, from VP Race Fuels? I know Barrett knows Jason and Michael, but I go way back with Jason, great guy. And him and Tyler Crossnow, when they were putting Limited Drag Radial together, one of the things that I loved that they did was keep the money small. They made a commitment early on, and they have since let go of it, and it made sense too. But they had a rule early on that the class was never going to pay more than $5,000 to win, because they wanted to keep those guys away. The guys that would go out and build a car, that had the resources, they'd go build a car to run that class. And then it would no longer serve the community that it was built for. Right. And I think that that's a cool thing to consider, because that was one of the things I told you as well, is it's like, hey, if you make it all about that, like, it's got to be more than the money. And I mean, we're running into this right now. The money matters. There's no doubt about it. It's an important part of what we do. But if any promoter thinks that they can put a big number at the top of a flyer and post it on social, and that's it, they are fucking.
You got to make it sexy. You got to make it sexy. And I think that Small Tire Gangsters makes it sexier than any other race in the country.
And it's really what it is. You got to make it sexy. You got to make it part of like our culture. You got to make it people want to be a part of it. And that is not done purely with dollars and cents. Yeah, we lost the boss there for a second. But I mean, I know it was obviously a huge moment for you, Michael, to win $20,000. And I'm sure it was awesome, Barrett, for you to see your best buddy win that kind of money. But that's not the only reason you're there. Right. I mean, you were there for a multitude of reasons: to support your boy, to do something different, race against new folks, be a part of that big, sexy event type of thing. Because, I mean, I'm sure you would have had you wouldn't have had as good of a time had you gone out early, but you wanted to be a part of that. I mean, Jimmy had people travel from all over the country want to be a part of it.
The chain helps too. And I, like I said earlier, I'm not really a no prep guy, like I'm a radial racer. And I told Tom last year, the week of the race, I said, man, I'm going to come support you one way or another. And I didn't tell him I was coming to race. I didn't tell him I was coming to spectate. And I rolled down the hill Friday night getting into the track, and Tom saw my rig, and he threw his hands up. He's like, bro, you really coming to race? And I was like, man, I'm probably about to get outrun first round, but yeah, I'm coming to support, you know? But no, I mean, they do a good job for it. Another thing that I think is kind of neat, like riding through the pits at Small Tire Gangsters, you know, what was the total payout, Tom? 70 or 80 grand?
Just over $80,000 for 2 days.
And how many stacker trailers were on the property? Two
None?
or three?
I didn't see a single, like, you talking stacker where you
like
put two
maybe
race
one or
cars
two,
on
right?
top of it, not a single one.
But it's like, man, how grassroots is that? You know,
Yeah.
you got a race here that's paying $80,000 total, and nobody's here in a stacker trailer. You know what I mean? Like for a guy like me that's got, you know, a 26-foot enclosed that I paid $3 grand for. You know, I mean, we're all blue collar guys, you know, and it's a great place for us to race. You know, like they definitely cater to the guys like me. You know, and that's, I mean, that's awesome. Like
in that same breath, I'm trying to make the race more and more professional every year. I think we did that this year from getting away from flashlight start
right
to 400 Pro Tree, which, bro,
gosh.
you know, you asked Barrett if I've had any pushback on the 400 Pro Tree deal. Yeah, I have had pushback on the 400 Pro Tree deal. He kind of played it off, but it's a hot subject right now. All these guys who street race or no prep race, and they just pull into the second beam, and then, you know, the flagger flags them, and they don't have to worry about bumping in or staging their car or whatever. Yeah, that's.
I think it's a balance, man. I mean, because I want the World Series of Pro Mod to be the most professional drag race in the world, but I also don't want to stop having fun and stop.
Yes.
And like, I try to remind people a lot, like, guys, we're not curing cancer out here. Like, don't get me wrong. It's all important. I get it. You're invested. I understand. We're all invested. We're all up to our elbows in this deal. But at the end of the day, we're supposed to be doing this to have fun. Very, very, very few people are making enough money drag racing as far as the competitor is concerned to like live their life. And I want you can't, in the pursuit of professionalism, you can't lose sight of what your community is like. Right? Like, what are these people? What do they really want? Like, they want a certain amount of professionalism, but I think that comes in a lot of shapes and sizes, right? They want, you know, the rules to be fair. They want the deal to be safe. They want adequate EMT there. They want those things. But here's the other part of that. That shit's not a goal. Those things are expectations. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, we're putting on,
John Sears was my tech guy. John Sears. The John Sears.
The John Sears, right? Mr. Sears, we refer to him around here, but it's like, and you want to be professional, but you can't lose sight of like where this sport comes from, who we are at our core. This is a group of problem solvers, do-it-yourselfers, outlaws and badasses, rebels. I mean, you can't lose sight of that. And I think that happens a lot. Like, these events, they start to evolve and they get some momentum and people start making money and blah, blah, blah. Sponsors start rolling in, and you get so caught up on doing that next level, chasing that next level, you start to lose your roots. You start to lose sight of where you came from and what made this deal special. And it is a delicate dance, man, because I think you got to do a certain amount of those things to keep you want to run a race in an orderly fashion. You want to have some sort of a schedule. You want to, there's more than a handful. There's a lot of things that you got to do because what we do out here is dangerous. It's serious business.
My goal for next year isn't just necessarily blow it up. Let's get it as big as possible. My goal is that, you know, the only time that me and Hollis and all the homies got to sit around and have a drink and shoot the shit was about 4 a.m. on Saturday when the whole race was over. Were we all beat, tired? Absolutely. But were we about to miss the shooting the shit at the pits? No. So we all sat over there at Hollis's trailer and we all shot the shit and told jokes and gave each other a hard time. And
I remember.
Oh, no.
We did it until 5 a.m. or so, until the sun started to come up. And then I started getting real vampire-like and was like, oh, I got to get to the camper before the sun comes up.
You have to. What were you going to say, Michael? Uh-oh. Did we lose him? Leave and come back.
Wes, we talked about having a, like, Racers Club or Drag Illustrated after party. if I can get the race done on Friday night early, like 11 o'clock, and then from 11:30 till 1 in the morning or 11:30 to, let's call it midnight to 2 in the morning, is what is everything but a whole ass club at Yellow Belly in the VIP parking lot, and I got the DJ going and the laser light show and the maybe free
don't
drinks,
threaten me with a
maybe
party.
not free drinks. I don't know. We'll figure something out, but.
No, I'm in for that, and we can definitely make that happen because
I want
those
the
are the things,
camaraderie
man.
to be up next year because
It's
year we were
important,
like
man.
race, and we didn't have enough of the shoot the shit in the pits with your boys. So I want more of that. That's
how many cars did you have on the property?
150, if I remember correctly.
I mean, it's a big ask, man. I mean, and it's how you hear about these events where there's 500, 600, 700, 800 cars, and it's like, holy shit, how did they do that? But you're right. It removes any opportunity you have for that camaraderie, which is another driving force on this, man. Like that is, it's as important as E1 is to make sure these guys have an opportunity to break bread with their friends and hang out. I mean, a lot of these people, they only see them at the racetrack. So I think you're onto something with that. I mean, it's happening fast, man. I mean, you've got to think how far this deal has come in a very, very short amount of time. There's no telling where it's going to go in the future, but I think it's important that you're sticking to your roots and like just doing it at the gut. I mean, Mike and I said the gut to each other this past weekend in Vegas like 400 times. What do you think's happening at the gut as we're sitting at a slot machine or a blackjack table?
You really said that? Y'all are really curious to how the gut was going?
Dude, I mean, we're looking at it I'm enamored with the gut, and I'm like super embarrassed that I haven't made it more of a priority to be there. But I want to go with someone I know, which, and it just hasn't worked out yet. And, that to me, that is I mean, I don't want to beat this word to death too, but there's something sexy about it. There's something really, to me, that's just a great representation of where our sport came from and what it's really about. Like, these are the people that keep all these companies in business, right? They're the ones that end up paying full price, don't get no sponsor discount, or paying for overnight shipping, full price. I mean, don't need a sticker for their car. You never hear from them again. Those are the customers that keep this sport going. I mean, it's not the guys that want a custom made intake manifold and are going to ring your phone every day for the next 5 years, asking you questions or needing help. I mean, these guys are like, they ordered it off jags.com or summit.com, summitracing.com, and bolted it on and hoped it worked. They don't even know what brand it is, maybe.
I got so many people that I know locally who, I said, where'd you buy that at? They said, Summit. I said, why didn't you call me? I'm going to save you a few bucks. They said, well, I wanted it right now. It's like, oh, okay. So they went and got it right now.
Yeah. It's kind of interesting. I mean, I guarantee you every manufacturer, every business in this community needs those people. I mean, that's the reason we started Drag Illustrated, because I thought no one in this industry is like catering to the people that are actually keeping this whole freaking wheel spinning. Like my old man and my uncles who literally, I mean, there didn't a week didn't go by of race season that we weren't next day airing this, next day airing that, paying full. I mean, and you weren't calling and asking for price. You were calling and asking for availability. Like, do you have one of these? And do you have this part number? And can I get it tomorrow? And they're like, well, do you want it? No, just here's my credit card. Please send it. We've got a race this weekend. Those are the people that we need to really cater to and take care of, because they're keeping this whole thing going. It's a really important thing. We got Barrett and Michael back. It looks like we got them back on relatively stable connections. Guys, I won't keep you. I just wanted to say thanks a bunch. I appreciate the time. I really do feel part of the magic of what we do at Drag Illustrated is making sure that drag racers are treated as drag racers across the board. And I'm proud of the fact that, you guys are as important to us as Erica Enders and Bob Tasca. You know what I'm saying? It's like these guys, because going back to what we were just talking about, it's really the grassroots drag racing community that makes this whole deal go round. We need that tip of the sword. We need those big platforms, but it's guys like you that are pulling up in a 3,000 foot or $3,000 26-foot tag trailer that keep this sport going. And you're as important to this shit as John Force.
Wes, thanks for doubling down on your commitment to grassroots level drag racing. It doesn't go unnoticed. I
Hey,
think you've gained
Wes,
more
one more
market share on grassroots in the last 2 years than you have since you started.
Well, thank you, man. We're trying. I mean, it's the funnest shit going on. I mean, it's exciting. Go ahead, Michael. I'm sorry.
thing. You want to go to Yellow Belly? I make you a deal. I got a little 4-door Malibu. Any Thursday night or Sunday night you want to go? Us 4 will climb in that motherfucker and we'll go down the fucking track.
All right, sounds like a plan. I want to race Magic Johnson.
And we get Taco Lady.
And we got you gotta get Taco Lady.
Yeah, gotta go get Taco Lady.
Both these guys live in West Fort Worth. Both these guys are north from West Fort Worth. All 4 of us live within 45 minutes of each other.
Yeah. Barrett, where do you live?
Maybe I'm an hour out.
I live 5 minutes from the Speedway.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Wow, I didn't know that. I live in Alito, so like you're close. Yeah, that's
Let
crazy.
us know. We'll come pick you up in the Malibu. We'll go to Yellow Belly one night.
Yeah.
Sounds like a plan, man. Real quick before I let you go, and this is going to be our closing, our final. Jimmy Dale, you got to give me something crazy happened. What was the craziest thing that you saw at the Gut this weekend? I mean, tell me a whopper. I want something that I can clip out. Like, give me a zinger.
Man, give him a zinger. Hold on, go to the other guys. Let me think for a second. How about Jerry? Is it Gary or Jerry? How do you pronounce it? I see it on paper. I want to Jerry.
Jerry.
How about Jerry coming from Nevada, whatever. Comes down here. He came last year. He stayed for a few weeks. He goes to Radio Roundup. He goes to Small Tire Gangsters. He goes to all the races in here in the springtime and stays in his camper and all this stuff. And he just wants to win a Small Tire Gangster chain. And this man, was it True Street that he did that? Yeah. Where did he fly his car? His car practically took flight at some point.
That was at Mikey.
Yep, that was me.
Yeah, and he still beat him.
Yeah.
Still beat him.
I've got to ask the burning question. Is there some sort of debate that I wasn't aware of over the pronunciation of Nevada?
Nevada?
I mean, like, yeah, have you heard
Nevada?
it both ways?
Nevada or Nevada?
I think it's Nevada.
Mm.
Mike will know. Well, hold on real quick. Mike, it's Nevada, is it not?
It is Nevada, but I've always said Nevada.
Nevada.
I'm in the wrong too. Yeah.
Shit,
I'll give you
this was a debate. I didn't even know this was a debate. I'm going. I heard car flying through the air, and I'm going.
Yeah.
Back.
Either way. It's a far away. It's far away from North Carolina, so we say however over here. Yeah.
Since you're talking about zingers, right? And Jerry, everybody's like, man, you was buck wild whenever Mikey won Saturday night. You know, I took my shirt off and screamed at the cameras and all that.
I saw that pic.
Well, because I was trying to do that Friday night. My boy, when the Blue Nova came back down out of the power wheelie, I went, oh, this ain't gonna be good.
Let me tell you, between the shirt off and the beard, you are power slap ready.
Yeah.
You know what? I need to make some calls, and we're gonna get Barrett. You're built for power slap.
Bro,
to be honest,
like 6'6".
You may be able to just go right into.
I got a career in power slap.
Yep.
Yeah. Hey,
check it out. Amateur night. Holler at me.
I know some people. Well, hey guys, thank you all so much for being a part of this. Seriously, Jimmy Dale, congrats, man. Michael, congrats. Barrett, congrats. Again, I'm bummed out about next weekend, but it's or this weekend. But I'm even more excited, to be honest, to have an opportunity to go out to the Motorplex in the fall. I love drag racing. It's record-setting season. I got a hoodie on. I got my Racers Club hoodie on. It all is right in the world at a drag strip in September, October, November. So
order some more Racer Club shit and you can sell it at the roundup.
Lock it in. We'll be there on display. Let's throw a party. Let me make sure I'll ask my wife. And
we got a tent. We got a big ass tent ready to go.
Right, let's throw a party. I want to throw a party at Radio Roundup. If there's
Thursday night,
November 8th, right?
Yeah.
Yep, there's nothing on my schedule. So I've got this big ass calendar on my wall. So let me work on that. And that's what, a couple, 2-3 weeks after the Motorplex or after.
You did it, Jimmy Dale.
I did it.
2 or 3 weeks after the Fall Nationals, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's starting to be like the second weekend in November.
Yeah, man. All right, dude. Let's lock that in. I'm gonna put it on the calendar. I got little sticky notes. I'll write Radio Roundup Throwdown Party. We'll burn that son of a bitch to the ground. They'll have to remodel it again. Big tires?
We just warning you.
No.
Oh
There
no.
will be on the rotator and the flat drag. That's it.
Hey, you can
What do
drive
you guys-
Magic Johnson at Radio Roundup.
Okay. Sounds good.
Bam.
Lock that in.
There we go.
And then we got Mike. Last time I raced, I didn't feel like we promoted it very well. We need to. I want.
Well, it's because you
pressure. I want the
locked
pressure
it in
turned
2
up.
days prior. You didn't.
I
give
want
us
the
much
pressure
time.
turned up. I want to go down there and feel the weight of the world on my shoulders. I want the.
Luckily, we got
world
like
watching.
6 months to work on that promotion.
Hey,
Okay.
if-
Because
with the amount
Wes
that Wes
Buck
talked
making his
about the fact
radial
that he was
roundup
racing,
debut.
yeah, he only had 2 days to talk about it, and it was endless discussion about it. So I don't even want to know what it's going to be like if he's got like 6 months to promote it.
I see Marty Robertson's in the chat. We ought to see if he'll let me run his car. Do you guys have a car? That's not a great weekend.
Marty might have
I'll
an
drive,
extra car or two.
I'll drive Magic Johnson, and then I'll jump behind the wheel of Big Blue, and I'll take Big Blue down there for a rip.
He's got the small tire car too. He's got the '67 Camaro.
Oh, I don't even know if I've seen that. I was just over at Marty's
Yeah.
place.
Well, if you ever saw JD Campbell's, you've seen it.
Marty's typically got hot rods stacked like firewood. I mean, it's awesome. No, but seriously, guys, thank you all so much. I'm looking forward to seeing you later this year. Tommy, we need to get together real soon. And stay out of trouble, guys. And all of y'all that tune in every week, I hope you guys know how much we appreciate it. Like, every one of us are having the time of our lives. I think I'm looking at a group of people that are chasing their dreams, and it's only possible because of all of you. Huge shout out to our sponsors who I failed to mention today. Stroud Safety, appreciate you guys. Redline Synthetic Oils, flowracing.com. Appreciate your guys' support, and we will see you next Wednesday right here on the Drag Illustrated YouTube channel and Facebook page. Thanks, guys. I'll see you soon.
Deuces.
Everybody give me an outro one by one. Here we go.
I gotta go first. I'm gonna use Barrett Green. Barrett takes his shirt off. He runs to the camera. He goes, back to back like Lethal Weapon.
Yeah.
That was
make a meme of that and send that to me.
Yeah.
Blake can do it.
God.
Blake.
That was after I lost my voice Friday night yelling no fucking split because Dakota didn't want to split, and our boy with the El Camino won that shit.
Oh man!
Oh.
So run down to the
Whoa,
finals.
real
and
quick,
then be
split
like,
drama?
I don't want to split.
Oh yeah,
Tommy,
our homie.
We spent half the show last week
I
talking
forgot all about
split
it.
drama.
Full size truck finals, and El Camino is a full size truck for the record. We get down to it. Our buddy first round
We're still live.
is first round his opponent red lights. His second opponent bumps through the beam. Third round he gets a bite of the finals. So this is like he's in the finals. He asked our buddy Dakota, "Hey, do you want to split?" He goes, "Nah, man, I'm good." So I asked Dakota personally. I was like, "Whoa, you're not gonna do nothing with the homie?" Thinking, you didn't know this guy. He's like, "Nah, man, I got this thing sewn up." And I was like, "Okay." They went down there, and dude, it was the best pass El Camino's ever made. He was trying to wad it up the first 2 passes. Second pass, like he's a fucking pro. And I lost. I mean, I'm screaming in every one of them dudes' face, like, "No, split!" Just going wild, just hamming it up.
And then Pops, Michael Hollis's dad, the rest of the weekend, every time Dakota would come around, "Oh, look, it's no split Dakota. How you doing, no split Dakota?" Called no split all weekend. No
his
split.
shop is called Split Performance.
Oh my God, he walked right into that. That's never going away.
Yeah.
No.
He is never not going to split.
Cards made. I'd be ordering. I'd be on Vistaprint.com right now getting those no split performance decals or business cards made, because I mean, no split performance, lock it in. I'd take the sign down because that shit is sales.
No split performance.
No split performance. All right, guys, thanks a bunch.
All right,
thank you guys all for tuning in.
Thanks, y'all.
Later.